So Dr. Ayres was an occupational therapist, and she was also a psychologist. And she was really unique because at her time it was unusual for a woman to have a PhD and to do research the way that she did. And she was also unique because she was both a clinician and an educator and a researcher. Most professionals in these domains either spend their time doing research or they go into clinical practice, but she always did both. And she was the pioneer who developed the theory of sensory integration. We now call it Ayres sensory integration to identify it specifically with her concepts. But this framework was really revolutionary in terms of understanding some subtle difficulties that children can have that affect learning, development, behavior. And this theory that she developed in the early 1960s has proven to be so visionary and so important for the problems that we try to understand today. In June of 2014, an international group of mostly occupational therapists, but some additional professionals, physical therapists, speech and language therapists, were discussing the fact that in the year 2020, it would have been Dr. Ayres' 100th birthday. And this made us think about what would the kinds of things be that Dr. Ayres would appreciate for a celebration of her 100th year. And that led us to develop an initiative that we decided to call the Ayres Sensory Integration 2020 Vision. In many countries, 2020 vision means perfect, clear vision. And we really wanted to look ahead into the future and think about what would the things in the future that would be most important to Dr. Ayres, what would those be? And we established 3 goals in this initiative. One was around scholarship, one was around comprehensive assessment, and the third was around standards in competency in training and education in Ayres sensory integration. So we set 3 goals in the Ayres Sensory Integration 2020 Vision, and the second goal is a really large goal, a goal around comprehensive assessment. And we had identified some of the challenges that therapists have in being able to fully assess children. Challenges around cost, the age range for which current tests address, and international normative data. We have had very limited information by which we can compare children outside of the United States. So in this effort, we decided to develop a new set of tests called the Evaluation in Ayres Sensory Integration. In English, that spells EASI, which we can pronounce easy. And although we don't expect this set of tests to exactly be simple, we do hope to make them feasible and accessible so that therapists all around the world will have a set of comprehensive tools to evaluate children. One of the really exciting and innovative things about the EASY is that it will be an open access test. That means that it will not be owned by any business or organization or individual, and rather it will be owned by professionals all around the world who have training in sensory integration, and they will have access to this test and to scoring this set of tests without a charge. Also, the materials that we are using for this set of tools will be 3D printed, and that's been a very exciting part of the test because that means that every therapist can make their own test kit with just some minor cost of gathering the tools that they'll need. When we had the idea about developing an international open access set of tools, some people thought we were a little crazy. We actually thought maybe we were a little crazy to imagine that we could develop a set of tests and make them available around the globe. But one thing about therapists who work with children, occupational therapists, physical therapists, speech and language therapists, who see these problems, sensory integration problems in children, they are a very generous group of people who really are quite caring and altruistic. And so we very quickly gathered not only hundreds but thousands of volunteers around the world who were willing to help develop the test, conduct preliminary studies to ensure that the tests were strong, and who are now ready to help us collect international normative data. Our initial goal was to have 100 countries involved in the project. We currently have about 75 countries which are actively engaged and have volunteers, and we have a lot of ideas about bringing in additional countries. I'm not sure that we will make it to 100, but we do know that we're going to have many countries involved. And in fact, Colombia is one of the key partners in this project. We are really excited to have Colombia, along with several other Spanish-speaking countries, working very collaboratively to translate tests into the Spanish language, into possibly one version of a Spanish set of test sheets and manual, so that beginning in 2018, which is right around the corner, we will be ready to collect normative data, testing typically developing children all around the world, so that when therapists are evaluating children who have concerns, those children can be compared to other children from their own culture, their own language, their own population. And we are so thankful for the leaders in Colombia who are helping us with this and who are going to take the lead in ensuring that we have children from this country represented. Yes, so when we were thinking about how therapists would access this new set of tests, the EASY, we wanted to make the tests accessible and feasible for therapists to use, but at the same time, we do want to ensure that there are standards for best practice. And one of the goals of the initiative, as I mentioned, was to establish standards for competency in education and training. So to implement this goal as part of the AYRS Sensory Integration 2020 vision, we've been very fortunate to have leaders from a number of countries who have a long tradition of training in sensory integration. Portugal, the United Kingdom, Austria, Finland, South Africa, and several countries in South America, including Colombia, Chile, and Brazil. So these leaders from these countries are working together, and they have now formed a nonprofit entity. It's called the International Council for Education in AYRS Sensory Integration. I believe that we pronounce that ICZ. And this group is working to establish standards that will be utilized for consistency all around the world, so that if a therapist moves from one country to another and they have received training, that training will be recognized and will have the same standards. It's also important for the consumers, for families. So if a family might move from one country to another, they know that they can feel comfortable that a therapist providing an assessment or intervention for their child has similar training and levels of expertise. Well, I always look forward to coming to Colombia. It is one of my favorite places in the world. The people here are so warm, so much hospitality, and so hardworking. It's very impressive to see the numbers of people who have been trained here. I'd like to thank the team here and Occupare for all your work over not only in the recent training programs, but over so many years to train hundreds, thousands of professionals in this country to ensure that the standards are there for children. We always want to remember that we are all working with the children and families in mind, and this group certainly exemplifies that effort. So thank you so much.